Hey, my name is Rachel, and I am an education technology specialist. Today, I'm going to continue our series about how we can use the internet to enhance education. So, specifically, we're going to drill into podcasting in education. So, what is a podcast? In its most basic form, it's an audio file. Purists would insist that a podcast must be serialized content available through an RSS feed. But in common usage, the term has become looser and it's now often used to describe any audio file. What are some of the advantages of using podcasting? Media literacy has become an important skill. Podcasts and other multimedia formats are part of that dynamic, and the opportunity to experience the world through audio continue to expand. The ability to explain complex topics to a lay audience is especially valuable as scientific and technical knowledge becomes increasingly important. And the activity of writing and creating a podcast pushes students and faculty into learning new skills, listening, storytelling, and interviewing. And writing and creating a podcast means the student has to think very carefully how to share a message through oral communication and oral representation. It's also an opportunity to learn about copyright and other intellectual property considerations. I wanted to slip in a few other advantages of podcasting. So teachers can record their lessons just as an easy way to model how to use podcasts. This can be great for students who've missed class for a variety of reasons, or just for reference purposes when they're preparing for a quiz or a test. This is very valuable for students from an international background or with learning difficulties such as dyslexia, that they can learn at their own pace and review that content. But what about some disadvantages of podcasting? Podcasts are inaccessible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing unless transcripts are provided, and transcripting can be expensive. Also, translating podcasts can be very difficult. And creating good podcasts can be an unexpected challenge. Many people hear excellent podcasts, say like This American Life or Serial, and they think, well, that seems pretty easy. But actually choosing all those sound files, interviewing, editing takes a huge team of people. But how to listen to a podcast? So there's many podcasting services that organize podcasts. They let the user search for and discover podcasts. And some of these are Stitcher, Pandora, Google, Apple, even Spotify. But how to make a podcast? So I said earlier that to produce really good content, you need a whole team of people to help research and edit and create those audio files. But truthfully, tools and services have become increasingly affordable and easy to use to create podcasts. You can even create a podcast with your iPhone. So some that I've seen recommended are Spreaker, Podbean, and Elite2. These all have a low fee associated with them, as well as Anchor, which is a free medium. I use Anchor myself. Here's a shameless plug for Global Education Trends, my podcast about EdTech. So let's just quickly dive into some of the best podcasts for tweens. And I've highlighted about 6 or 7 of these, including a way that teachers can use this in the classroom. So Youth Radio, it's a podcast for teens, it's published by teens. It can be really inspiring for your tweens to look at some of these issues on media, technology, and think about how they could design their own podcast. Radio Adventures of Eleanor Amplified. She is a world-famous radio reporter, and she is very entertaining and informative. And so you could discuss Eleanor and her values and talk about truth-telling with media. In Star Talk Radio, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson shares about so many wonderful scientific facts about space. He also interviews some incredible people. And so you could have your students research the science topic that Mr. Tyson talks about and share their findings either in a visual medium or make a podcast themselves. As an English major, I appreciate The Illusionist. It is funny and goes through the roots of words and phrases, so students could write their own linguistic joke or just research the origins of some of the really strange idioms English has. Stuff you missed in history class, students can learn about some of those hidden stories in the Civil War, the Great Depression, or World War II. ListenWise is a unique podcast because it comes with a lot of educational content around it. So you can just choose a topic and find all the teaching resources that go with it. So in conclusion, podcasting supports the skills and competencies that are needed for the 21st century. Media literacy is just increasingly valuable for students and those in the workforce. They need to learn how to communicate with various media to diverse audiences and how to be a critical creator and a consumer of content. Audio content also has the potential to be very effective by inviting listeners to use their imagination to visualize what's being described. So given the flexibility and convenience of consuming content on smartphones, many students prefer audio content. And due to commitments such as family and work responsibilities, some students depend on this kind of mobile, self-paced, and asynchronous learning. So compared to video content, podcasts can be easier to create and the files are smaller, so they're easier to download for users with limited bandwidth. So in these ways, podcasting can increase equity by allowing students with a wide range of needs and resources to participate. And I've included some of my references here for you to look at. I'm really thankful for the authors of this article on EDUCAUSE, 7 Things You Should Know About Podcasting. And I want to emphasize that a lot of the ideas that I had for using podcasting in teaching activities was from Mr. Kokayas from a website We Are Teachers. So if you have any questions about using podcasts in the classroom, whether you are a staff or faculty or parent, please contact me and I'd be so happy to answer any of your questions.